Farouk, Kibet, and Dannis Itumbi, what role do they play in the administration of President Ruto? Now, in his recent very explosive revelations, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Wamonyoro if you like, revealed, but actually just confirmed, what many Kenyans have known for a long time. That actually these two individuals, Bwana Farouk Kibet, who has been a personal assistant to Ruto for a very long time, long before he became president, and Dannis Itumbi, propagandist in chief, are actually much more powerful within the Ruto administration than meets the eye. Kenyans already knew that. But then of course it's quite another thing for an insider to come out and confirm and even give us further details. Some casual Kenyans may ask, so what? So what if those people have been given power? A president has the prerogative to give power to whom he so wishes, or she so wishes, if the president is a lady. Actually, there is a huge problem, okay? And indeed this kind of scenario creates room for many other problems. But before we go into that, there are many people who have compared Farouk Kibet to somebody who was very close to Moi and also very powerful, Nicholas Biwott, okay? Now, people say that Farouk Kibet, including this blogger, I have to confess, I once said, that Farouk Kibet is Ruto's Biwott, okay, or Biwott, depending on how you want to pronounce that name. But today I want to correct something. Nicholas Biwott and Farouk Kibet were very different individuals, very different characters from very different backgrounds. And there are a few very huge differences we cannot ignore. Nicholas Biwott was very well educated. He got his university education in Australia, courtesy of a scholarship of the Kenya government, organized by Moi in those years, okay? And then he was a personal assistant to a Mzungu called Bruce Mackenzie, whom it was confirmed later was an intelligence officer for at least 2 major spy organizations in the world. In very deep contrast, Farouk Kibet doesn't have any education to speak of. He dropped out at a very early class. And then somebody today on social media pointed out another very huge difference. Biwott preferred to operate behind the scenes, quietly. He was never loud about his power. Of course we all know people like Farouk Kibet like throwing their weight around. Biwott never did that. He was a very small man, very short, with a very quiet voice. And he did his things quietly, behind the scenes. Indeed, it is super fascinating that when Moi took over the presidency and appointed Biwott as a Minister of State in the office of the President, Biwott had a stammer. People stammer. Some people are born like that. Some people develop that stammer later due to trauma. But the super fascinating thing here is that Biwott lost his stammer. That's a huge mystery, which maybe will be solved one day. Because he stopped stammering. How now? Anyway, it is widely known that powerful people who are quiet are extremely dangerous. Afadhali wale wanapiga makelele. Okay, you know where they're going, you know what they're thinking. But this quiet guy, small guy, operating behind the scenes, that is deadly. And many Kenyans found out in a very bad way. and many other Kenyans lost their lives because they underestimated this quiet, small guy. What? But back to our question. Why is it very dangerous to give too much power to people well beyond their titles in an administration, and especially the administration of a president? Why? Can you list the reasons? And even as you list them, I want to draw your attention to a very interesting development in the south coast of our beloved motherland. You know, the Dongo Kundu bypass, which links the island to the south coast, has really changed things. And I want to bring it to your attention that the property that I've been telling you about on this channel, the people who've sponsored videos here, have had an overwhelming response. And I think this reflects the huge opportunity there is in this area. And today we have yet another person, a sponsor of this video, who wants to draw attention to property in that region. This one is actually only 500 meters away from Diani Airport. You know, the Diani Airport has recently been refurbished, elevated, okay? And this is a prime quarter-acre piece of land that can be put to many, many uses, because of the location, quite naturally. You can see a number on your screen right now, 0722 497 053. Get in touch faster, in case you're interested, to avoid disappointment. By the way, the asking price for this whole quarter acre is only 5.5 million. Okay? Tuendelee. Now, you need a very valuable piece of information, key piece of information, to grasp what is really going on here. You see, I believe many of us know that President William Ruto is a micromanager. Wamunyoro told us is involved in each and every procurement decision of the government. He's a hands-on man. And therefore what that means is that if you're a cabinet secretary, if you're a very senior person even, you cannot move without confirming with your boss, the president. I'll give you a very good quick example. There was a time when the opening of schools was postponed. I believe it was because of flooding. And the ministry could not issue a statement. Why? Because they had not yet been able to reach the president to confirm the decision. At that point in time, he was out of the country. And so, Kenyans really suffered because students traveled long distances. Somebody comes all the way from Garissa to attend their school in Mombasa, and they've already arrived. And then at the very last minute, the Ministry of Education comes out, and says, the opening of schools has been postponed, when students have already traveled. Okay? So he's a micromanager. However, Farouk Kibet does not consult, does not need to consult when he does these things. Dannis Itumbi does not need to consult. These people make their own decisions. I believe they're the only two people in government with the prerogative, with the permission to make decisions, even big ones, without consulting the boss. Now that tells you something, doesn't it? Because imagine the following scenario. Cabinet Secretary of Finance, you have to consult your boss. Cabinet Secretary Defense, Cabinet Secretary Interior, you must clear one or two small things with the president, with the boss. But Farouk Kibet, Dannis Itumbi, they don't need to. They operate the offices and they make their own decisions with very minimal consultation What? And of course things are bound to go wrong. I think we cannot fully explain the very curious incident where Farouk Kibet directly called Chief Justice Martha Koome. This is at the height of the effort to impeach successfully Rigathi Gachagua. And the story goes, hawakusikizana. Yeah, naturally. Because what Bwana Kibet wanted done was unconstitutional. Okay? And I would imagine President Ruto himself, with kizungu mingi, would be able to get around these constitutional issues. Okay? But Farouk Kibet, no chance. So there's a problem there. Yeah, and that's just one example. We have also seen with our own eyes Farouk Kibet giving instructions to the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Kithure Kindiki. And of course he was not taking it well. Kulikuwa mvurutano hapo. You see what I mean? And then of course the very latest is a video that has gone viral, yeah, where Farouk Kibet is trying to prevent a very senior member of government, Cabinet Secretary of Finance, Bwana John Badi, from using the red carpet. Kila mtu akae kwa leni yake. So, apart from giving the government a very bad image, there are a lot of things which are bound to go wrong. Yeah, because you're giving authority to people who are not qualified to exercise that authority. And so, a million things can go wrong. Okay? And so I'm suspecting one day, when historians dig deeper into this William Ruto presidency, they'll be able to come out with many, many other examples. And I believe that one of the contributing factors that they're going to list, even if it's going to be the least important, yeah, or at the very bottom, one of the contributing factors will be giving power, too much power, to people who do not have the expertise to handle it and to make quality decisions. That definitely has to impact the administration. I find it super fascinating that both Farouk Kibet and Dannis Itumbi hail from very humble backgrounds. And of course there's nothing wrong with that. Please don't get me wrong. Because nobody has a meeting before they are born with the Most High. I want to be born in such and such a family. Isikuwe maskini sana, isikuwe tajiri sana, somewhere in the middle. No! Nobody has such a meeting. We just find ourselves born into a certain family and with certain circumstances. Therefore, you can't blame anybody. However, psychologists tell us this always impacts these individuals, and especially when these individuals find themselves in a place where they have a lot of power. Usually a lot can go wrong. Yeah, and as far as that particular topic is concerned, we can even talk about the current president of the Republic of Kenya. Yeah, whether you like it or not, it will affect you. It usually takes a very wise person, and usually it takes a very prayerful person who is close to the Most High to be able to get around this one. Others, this is something which follows you, no matter how rich you get, no matter how successful you get. It is something which follows you all your life and pulls you down, pulls you back, sometimes pushes you to make decisions that you regret later. Yeah? And there's yet another problem. Sometimes when you're given too much power, you don't know how to use your staff to check on the things you're doing. And you end up with a big mess in whatever work you're doing. Just to give you a very good example, we have had cases where Itumbi's boys have posted photographs online of President Ruto addressing huge crowds, only for it later to be discovered that these huge crowds are actually not Kenyan. In one hilarious instance, it turned out that the huge crowd was a crusade, a Christian crusade, in Nigeria. And they were packed there at a political meeting being addressed by Ruto in Kenya. And there are many other major blunders. There was a recent one where an old crowd was superimposed on a more recent Ruto address to the people. And this was right next to a petrol station, and somebody forgot to adjust the very old petrol prices. Hey, it happens. We are told that even very senior cabinet secretaries, very senior government officials usually tremble in fear when they see Farouk Kibet. We are told these very senior people usually become nervous when they see Dannis or Itumbi. And what offices exactly do these individuals hold? Very small offices. Supposedly. They're supposed to be very small offices. PR. Propaganda peddler on one side. On the other side, just like a personal assistant, to assist you with one or two things. Somebody who knows you very well. Somebody you can send home to your bedroom to fetch you something like that. But then in this particular Ruto administration, the offices of these individuals have been inflated and blown up to the point where Rigathi Gachagua called Farouk Kibet co-president to Ruto. Farouk Kibet is a co-president. And so, maybe it is not such a big mistake to call him President Farouk Kibet. Doesn't sound all that bad. What? Hii Kenya, as people say, hii Kenya, siame. The drama is too much. But then now, kimeumana. This administration is in deep trouble. This Ruto administration is in 6s and 7s. And therefore, it is in a situation where it is crisis after crisis. And so it will be very interesting to see how these individuals who are very powerful are going to handle it. Because when pressure comes is when a lot of things are exposed. The weakness of a man, what is really happening. When pressure comes, everything is exposed. It is exposed. Like what I expose in my stack of the most sensitive, classified info videos of Kumekucha, which are now available. You can see all the details on your screens. For only Kenya shillings 2,999, you can get all this red hot, moto kuliko pasi ya makaa information. And it's a lot of information. Ogola assassination, oh yes it was. Very deep inside the Ruto administration, what really happens. You will get shocked. It's interesting that Gachagua's recent revelations confirmed a lot of this information. The very high-tech assassination of former Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli, etc., etc., even something on the coup, and a lot of other information, even on Raila Odinga, the latest that has been happening, some of the things that happened a few months ago that are now showing signs of coming out into the open, etc., etc. Take advantage of this offer and go for this stack of highly classified, sensitive videos of mine. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.